Well, joining us now to talk more about this historic moment is Teresa Tomeo, host of Catholic Connection. Teresa, thanks so much for being here and talking this through with us. First I want to ask you, how momentous is this canonization for the Catholic Church, especially for young Catholics?
I think it's huge, especially during the Jubilee year. It's very special. It carries a lot of weight. Obviously, this is the Holy Father's first canonization mass. He's canonizing these two wonderful young men. And it's so interesting because it represents, I think, a good variety in terms of age groups. You have young teenagers and tweens who are identifying, I think, more closely with Carlo Acutis. And then you have those 20 somethings and even 30 somethings who are identifying very closely with Pier Giorgio Frassati. So I think for that important young group, that demographic for, in terms of church membership, but also for all of us, those of us who are baby boomers, also getting a lot of inspiration from these two. So it's a very big moment for the church right now.
This moment is years in the making. Can you explain a little bit about what the process is like leading to Carlo Acutis' canonization?
Sure. Well, for any canonization, there's a four-step process. You're a servant of God, venerable, you're beatified then, and you're blessed, and then you eventually become a saint. For Carlo Acutis in particular, it happened actually pretty quickly because he died in 2006, and now this year being canonized in 2025. So it moved a little bit quickly, and they have to have two miracles associated with them. And so there's lots of information online. If you want more details on the miracles, I'm happy to explain. But it is a process that can sometimes take not just a century, but centuries. And in the case of Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, it took about 100 years because he died in 1925.
You mentioned that this is a first for Pope Leo since he was elected to lead the church, but Acutis' sainthood was championed by the late Pope Francis. Again, years in the making, but not as long as many as you mentioned. What's your take on Pope Leo's thoughts about this moment and what it means?
I loved his homily today at the Mass, and I have to read this line to you because it just stuck out to me as a Catholic and as a talk show host and someone who's struggled with my own journey in life. He says, "The greatest risk in life is to waste it outside of God's plan." So I think he really honed in on the fact that these two young men knew at very early ages, obviously, Pier Giorgio Frassati, dying in his early 20s, and then of course Carlo Acutis dying in his teens, that they realized that the most important thing was God's will, and they focused on that. So again, I think Pope Leo did a beautiful job of expressing that. He brought in many other saints who had the similar experiences, such as St. Francis of Assisi and also St. Augustine. So I thought it was just beautiful, and watching all the people, and my husband and I live in central Italy part-time, and so the excitement across the country, not just in Rome, has been tremendous. We were in Assisi yesterday outside the burial place of Carlo Acutis, and it was very busy, talking to a lot of Americans there, but saw flags from everywhere. Just an exciting time in the church right now.
Carlo Acutis has been referred to as a computer whiz before his death. What do you think the sainthood sends to kids that are more reliant on technology than ever before?
That's a great question. I was just getting prepped for my show for tomorrow, my radio show, and found another story about the influence of media and how smartphone usage at early ages can impact the learning ability of young people. So if you think about the discipline that Carlo Acutis had, actually, as you know, as you mentioned, he was a computer whiz. They called him God's influencer. He loved video games, and he didn't lie about that. He was very honest. But at 15 or maybe even younger, before he died, he had enough discipline where he was only playing videos an hour a week, and that's according to his mom. So I think it sends a strong message, and I think hopefully young people and parents will think twice about how much time we all spend with the media.
Okay, such a big moment for the church and for young Catholics, especially. Teresa, thanks so much for joining us and for your insight.
You're welcome. Thank you.